Hello, welcome to this Lunch and Learn on financial abuse. If you've watched this before, this is an updated version. And my name is Darren Lawton Edge, and I'm the named professional for safeguarding adults for Pennine Care NHS Foundation Trust. So, what is financial abuse? Financial abuse as a type of abuse which includes having money or other property stolen, being defrauded, being put under pressure in relation to money or other property, and having money or other property misused. And that's the Care Act definition 2014, and that's in section 42, which deals with safeguarding. Financial abuse can be subtle, difficult, and hard to identify. So what is financial abuse? When defining financial abuse, we know there are many elements at play. It's true that when financial abuse often involves or is associated with someone taking or misusing someone else's money or belongings, it could be someone has run up a drug debt and the drug dealer then wants to take that person's card and PIN number until that drug debt is paid off. But they will still give that person money, but the majority of the money is taken by the drug dealer. Or they'll take the belongings like TVs and computers, PlayStations, Xboxes, etc. Harming, depriving or disadvantaging the victim. Control someone's purchase or access to money, often associated with someone who's experiencing domestic abuse as part of the coercive controlling behaviour. Often associated with other forms of abuse like physical abuse, domestic abuse. Doesn't always involve a crime like theft or fraud. So who is at risk of financial abuse? Anyone. Financial abuse can affect anybody. It often takes place where there's an unequal balance of power. And this can happen when someone is experiencing domestic abuse, someone has a learning disability or mental health condition, someone has an other medical condition such as physical disability, and someone takes medication. In all cases, please can also consider using Mental Capacity Act and having a mental capacity assessment. And consider what question you're going to ask them carefully so you mean to ensure you're compliant with the Act. A question such as, does Mrs. Anderson have capacity to understand her finances and how to pay all necessary bills? Could be a question. And also remember, the onus is on the professional to prove that person lacks capacity, not the other way around. And if someone has capacity, as part of that defendable decision making and audit trail, please ensure you record if a person has capacity. So what does financial abuse look like? It could be as simple as borrowing money and not giving it back. And this can start off, for example, it could be a neighbour. Oh, can you just lend me a £5 till payday? And then 6 years down the line, she's still lending that £5 and she's not giving that money back. And this could be happen to an older person, someone on benefits, someone with learning disability, someone who would be vulnerable and feel sorry for someone. It could be stealing money or belongings, taking pension payments or other benefits away from someone. This can also involve a neighbour or a friend or a family member having the benefits paid into their own account, then not giving the full amount of benefit back to the person who is entitled to the benefit. Taking money as payment for coming to visit or spending time together. Forcing someone to sell their home or assets without consent. Tricking someone into a bad investment. And one of these bad investments is, I don't know if you've heard about it, is a boiler house scheme. And a boiler house scheme is a group of individuals or criminals who will set up an office and they'll set up a real professional investment banking type or investment company. They'll have glossy leaflets, they'll have bond certificates, and it will be a professional operation. Then they will look in the community and target vulnerable people. And what they'll do is that they'll trick someone into making investments, and they may make a number of calls and a number of investments. And when the Boiler House scheme ends, what they'll do is they'll just end and close up shop, taking everybody's money with them, defrauding them out of those investments. The Boiler House scheme then may be moved to another locality, another town, or sometimes they will set up in another office in the same town but with a new company name, and they will try to trick some of the same investors they got money from last time. It could be forcing someone to make changes in their will, to inherit property, or to change the inheritance. So what are the signs of financial abuse? If you suspect that you or someone you might know might be a victim of financial abuse, it could be unexplained money loss, lack of money to pay for essentials such as rent, bills and food. You might go around to someone's house while you're doing an assessment and they've got no food in, or you might see a lot of final warning letters, red letters, or them just being very kind of nervous when you ask them about the benefits and finances. They might have an inability to access or check bank accounts and bank balances. They may not be able to go up to the bank. They might not have mobile phones where they can access their bank balance. There might be changes or deterioration in their usual standards of living. For example, not having items or things you usually have, like personal care equipment, razors, sanitary products, deodorants, food, etc. Unusual or inappropriate purchases in bank statements. For example, someone who is an older person and may not use Amazon, and they might have lots of Amazon accounts for large purchases on technology, which they may not usually use. It could be investments, it could be a bit large bank transfers. They're a bit isolated, they might become isolated and withdrawn from families and friends because they're embarrassed and don't want to talk about money. They might have a lack of things you'd expect someone to be able to afford, like a television, grooming items, clothing, hoovers. They might not use a washing machine, the electricity might go. And sometimes what's happened with some, and I think there's a website I've give at the end of this presentation called Think Jessica, which is where someone was getting letters from investment companies, Reader's Digest, the ones where on the front of the cover, win £1 million, and they may get into that and then they might have not money left when they've sent money to all these through the door fraudulent cases. And sometimes anything you do by post or anything you write may also be passed on to other third parties, and they will start sending you letters. It's kind of a vicious circle. So who commits financial abuse? So financial abuse can be committed by anyone, anywhere, even people employed to provide care. And this might include spouses, friends, family and neighbours, people employed to provide care, volunteers, or it could be strangers. Opportunist thefts like doorstepping. I'm going to talk now about cuckooing. This example is from County Lines, but this can also be taken into account people with learning disabilities, people with mental health problems, people who are older people who are vulnerable. So county line networks may use violence and coercion to occupy the property of someone who is often vulnerable through mental health, domestic circumstances, substance misuse or manipulation. The property is then used by the network to cut and store drugs and dispatch drug runners to perform a deal. The drug runners are often children who have been reported missing, so they're vulnerable in their own right. And the running of the drug operation is typically overseen by a manager who manages the workforce at this property. So it's quite a professional operation, and there is in some circumstances cocooning that is not so sophisticated. So the manager of the cocooning operation will be in receipt of phone calls from a line holder who will give instructions on the drug deal, the quantity, the drug type and the location. Notably, the occupier of the cocoon address can be a victim of violence, coercion and even modern slavery. However, there can be instances where the drug user is also being paid in drugs for the use of their property. But again, they're vulnerable. Victimhood of cocooned property occupants is variable, and full investigation of the circumstances of that occupier should be carried out by the police and partner agencies, such as adult social care, children's social care, and the social landlord or private landlord, if it's a private landlord. Another term you might not be familiar with is debt bondage. And debt bondage may be used by offenders when carrying out county lines activity. A real or perceived debt is used as a method to exert control over individuals, to recruit and or ensure they continue working for the county lines network. Those held in debt bondage may be made to run or deal drugs to repay the debt, or in some cases provide the use of their property for preparation and or dealing of drugs. Debts can then be incurred in a number of ways, including for the provision of food, drugs, accommodation, or other items the individual believes are gifts, but which they are expected to repay the cost of. Staged robberies against those holding or running drugs who are then held responsible for the loss. The seizure of drugs and or money by police upon arrest can result in the arrested individual being held responsible for the debt caused by the loss. An assumption of the debt incurred by friends or family, and that's the Crown Prosecution's definition. And this also can apply to someone who has been human trafficked, modern slavery, domestic servitude, or making people to work for little or no income because they may have paid for how they got into the country. Predatory marriage. A predatory marriage typically involves a situation where one person does not have the required mental capacity to consent to marriage, but is led into it and then taken advantage of by another party to secure financial or other gains. Predators or perpetrators can take advantage of the fact that they're entered into a marriage will revoke any will that has formally been put into place. This means that when a vulnerable individual dies, the predator benefits from their estate, and that might be the entire estate, cutting family and family out. And there's a really good website called Justice for Joan, and a really good Salford Adult Safeguarding Board put Biteside Learning on. It is an hour and 30 minutes long, so we won't be watching that now, but I recommend you go and watch that because it has the daughter of Joan, for the Justice of Joan, who set up that predatory marriage website, and their ethos is reforming marriage laws and to protect people with dementia. This example is for people with dementia, but more often some people with learning disabilities are also forced into marriage. It could be cultural issues, it could be forced marriage. What I want you to do now is to click the link on this slide and watch this video. This is real safeguarding stories. They're actors playing the part of someone who's actually been a victim, in this case of doorstep crime. It's about 30 minutes, it's about 13-14 minutes long, but it will be beneficial if you, either you can pause the video now and watch it, or you can watch it after you've watched this session. So what do? Well, financial abuse is a crime and should be reported to the police. You also need to consider, does a victim meet the criteria for safeguarding under the Care Act? And their criteria is, does the person have care and support needs? Are they at risk or experience abuse or neglect? And as a result of their care and support needs, are they unable to protect themselves? Then you would report it to the local authority. If you go onto our safeguarding website, safeguarding team's website, there is a part of the website that tells you how to report it to each local authority. So protecting finances for vulnerable adults. Sometimes there is some confusion about how to protect someone's finances. What do you need to do to protect someone's finances? And there's a number of things you can do. Initially, there's a benefit appointee. A person may request a family member can have their benefits paid to them to prevent any loss. As I mentioned earlier, this can also be a cause of financial abuse. The person appointed must give that money to the person or in conjunction with the person to support them to manage their finances. And if you've got any concerns about this, you can contact the Department of Work and Pensions. Some organisations are corporate appointees, such as supported living or care homes. And often people get mixed up about what is a benefit appointee. This will only give someone access to the benefits. It won't give them authorization to manage that person's finances. You'll need a power of attorney for that. And I will go on to explain what that is next. So a power of attorney, when an individual has capacity, they can give a person authority via application to the Office of Public Guardian to manage their property and finances. You need to make sure that there should be a stamped certificate from the Office of Public Guardian, which they can give to banks and financial institutions to prove they have the correct authority. You can ask to see this, and if they do not produce this, you can complete a form on the Office of Public Guardian's website, the OPG 100, which will highlight anyone who is authorised under power of attorney. You can, if a person lacks capacity in relation to their finances and a capacity assessment has been completed to evidence that, you can apply to become someone's deputy. This means they cannot make decisions for themselves at the time it needs to be made, ensuring there's a decision-specific mental capacity assessment and a best interest decision recorded on file. As a deputy, you'll be authorised by the Court of Protection to make decisions on their behalf. And this doesn't involve anything to do with their health. This is just in relation to property and finances. Both lasting power of attorney and court-appointed deputies, you have to keep records of how you're spending people's money, and you can report any concerns to the Office of Public Guardian website. I've just put this additional slide in, as I mentioned earlier, so you can check the status of someone's lasting power of attorney. So to check the status, or if someone has LPA or deputyship for a person you are supporting, you need to complete the OPG 100 form and send it to the Office of Public Guardian. And I've given the link there to the Office of Public Guardian website where you can get that OPG 100 form. Or if that link doesn't work for some reason, go onto the gov.uk website and type in OPG 100 and it will come up. And if you are concerned, the Office of Public Guardian also has their own safeguarding team, and they can be contacted on 0115 934 2777, and there's a website on there as well, opg.safeguardingunit@publicguardian.gov.uk. There's some useful resources. I think Jessica, we are Hourglass, Safer Aging Stopping Abuse, the National Debt Helpline, National Helpline for Domestic Abuse, Action on Fraud, which is the UK from the UK Police, and also see local authority websites. And there's a website for predatory marriage, which is the Justice for Joan campaign, which I've included there. There's a link to the Office of Public Guardian. There's an internal link for our safeguarding website, the Ancraft Trust, which I used some of their material for this presentation, and I used the real safeguarding stories for the video clip. And that is the end of the presentation today. And if you've got any queries or questions, you can also contact the Pen and Care NHS Foundation Trust Safeguarding Team. This is for Pen and Care staff only. We operate a duty system Monday to Friday, 9 till 4:30, and our telephone number is 0161 716 3785. Thank you for listening.